Hi, Edmonton Crossroads Community Church. It's great to be here with you again and to share in this way as we continue on with our series of Creator and Creation. As we're in this time of just exploring what does it mean to see the Creator in light of creation, and we're walking into the Advent season. Today, November 29th, 2020, it's the first Sunday of Advent. Almost the end of this 11th month of the year, moving into December. Wow, it's hard to believe that we're there. But as we prepare ourselves for this Advent season, I want us to really continue on with this concept of how Creator has given us a rhythm, and that this rhythm found in creation, set at the beginning of time, is still the same rhythm that carries throughout the whole of the scripture, right into the Advent and then right into today. And so we begin acknowledging that Christ is the cornerstone, not the cornerstone of a building, but the cornerstone of all creation, the spoken word. And as we recognize that, we can be still in that knowledge. Those foundational principles, God is in control. And so we can be still for the presence of the Lord. The Holy One is here. We continue on in that rhythm and that concept of day and night, light and darkness, and this 24-hour period that then moves to 7 days and a week. So it found right at the beginning of the scriptures that we have this period of a time that sets in place not just balance, but how all of creation is gifted and has responsibilities to each other, and it's in relationship together. And that as we walk together, we actually show the beauty of Creator and what was meant to be. Then we recognize in this walking together what we called, through Randy Woodley, called the harmony way. Beautiful picture of walking together in harmony. We saw last week the beauty of the tree and seasons and the harmony of the seasons, that you have the spring. And so we see it, we talked about in the tree, we have the spring where the tree comes to life. We have the summer where the tree flourishes and produces fruit. We have the fall where the tree gives up its fruit, gives up its leaves to go back into the ground, and then the tree pulls within itself, and so that its roots can go deep into the soil in that winter time. And in that winter where sometimes we don't particularly like. And so today, we, on our Advent series, you can watch that video, we lit the first candle of our Advent season. And we started at a different place. We actually started in the north, because that's where we are today, in this season of winter. And so we read the scripture from Isaiah 7, where it was a time where the years had not been so good to the Israelite people. They had not followed what God had set in place. And so today, I want to talk about what happens in that, what was set in place. First off, after the seasons, then we see this years and years and years. The older we get, the faster the years seem to go, but the years are what contains those seasons. And so today, here we are in a year, and I want to look at the scripture puts in place the Sabbath year. So in the 7-day week, you have 6 days and a Sabbath. Well, in the years, we have 6 years and then the Sabbath year. And so in this Sabbath year, scripture says, Leviticus 25, actually one of my favorite passages of scripture is found in Leviticus 25 and 26. It always stirs my heart, these words. And so we actually see that the land was called to rest and to observe a Sabbath rest. We as people need it every seventh day. The land, every seventh year, the land was to be given a rest. We were, as a people, the people of God, were to proclaim freedom throughout the land for all who live there. And then we'll come to Jubilee. But when I was trying to understand this concept of Sabbath rest and Sabbath rest for a year, the scriptures actually say that you're not supposed to plant a harvest. You're not supposed to even do anything to feed your family by putting seed in the ground. Or you're actually supposed to let Creator feed you and your family. Like, that's crazy. You know, we are very self-sufficient and we want to make sure we have it all figured out. Now we use the word sabbatical to take a year off, and you have a sabbatical, except for we plan for the whole year and then we take it off and make sure we have all of the things in place so we can take that time to rest. That's not what Scripture says. Scripture says the seventh year was to be taken so the land could rest and that Creator would feed us and our children. Like, that's crazy. You know, I didn't understand this until I went north and lived I was in Yellowknife, but we met people from all across the Northwest Territories in Nunavut. And today I have a picture here beside me, a picture of the barren lands in the north. And this would be indicative of much of Canada and the Inuit people who live in northern Canada. And they taught me about Sabbath and a year of Sabbath, because what I learned from them is they didn't plant gardens and they didn't pen in animals, but they believed that Creator would feed them. And Creator did feed them for thousands of years. And they actually existed. Actually, it's right now that they have more food insecurity when they've moved into a more Western worldview. But for years, yes, there was times of deep hunger, but the belief that God, Creator, one who showed them the way, would lead them to the herds, would bring the berries in those seasons, and that they would be fed, that the fish would run. Many of our Indigenous people would have those histories. And my people would probably have them, but many, 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 many generations ago, where we would have lived without planting crops, without fencing in animals. Scripture only asks them to do it once every 7 years. And I watched the Inuit people live that. It was deeply and profoundly moving to understand that kind of trust. But the other thing that it brought was the principle of sharing and generosity. For when the herds came, when a whale was harvested, when a walrus was harvested, when the fish ran, everyone ate together. Everyone had the same. And when there was no fish and when they could not find the herd, then they all were hungry together. And there was a community that brought something that's helped them survive for centuries in this subsistence lifestyle. When I look at that, I started to understand these passages in Scripture so much better. Moses, as they stood before the promised land, actually was in our reading this week, if you're reading along with us here at Crossroads, Deuteronomy 15, it talked about the sabbatical year. And so it said, in the 7th year, this is the regulation, every creditor shall forgive what he has loaned to his neighbor, he shall not require payment from his neighbor and his brother, because the Lord's release has been proclaimed. Part of the Sabbath year, and then after 7 Sabbath years to Jubilee in the 50th year, where land was to be restored to those whose original land it was, there was a concept of generosity, a concept of justice where no one was left out. As we try to understand that as part of the rhythm of life, that we are to be a generous people. Our justice is not to be something where we punish, but our justice was to make sure no one was left out, but that all had things together. That poverty would not be there, that the poor would actually be fed and they wouldn't be left behind. As we continue on looking at how this concept of Jubilee would work, it continues on in Leviticus 25, and recognizing that what will happen when the people observed this Jubilee was that the land would produce enough for everyone. That Creator, when we were generous, the Creator would be generous and make sure there was food for everyone and the land would yield produce. There was a give and take in this concept. This was broken time and time and time again. The prophets came and said, you are not making sure the poor are fed, the widow and the orphan are taken care of. And when we come to Isaiah chapter 7 that we read in our Advent reading, if you read those first few chapters of Isaiah, you will understand that the prophet is speaking to a people who are not following this guideline, this teaching. And so the world went out of balance. Today, our world is out of balance. In the time of Advent, that first Advent, the world was out of balance, and we did not know how to do it right. And so Creator steps into creation and shows us the way. A virgin shall conceive, a baby will be born. One who would show us how to be generous and what true justice is. What a gift this Advent is. This season, this year, may we take time to be generous, to care, and know that Creator will see that and will be pleased. God bless you. Have an amazing week.